All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another eruption in Iceland, our first of 2025. If folks can let me know if they can see and hear me okay. We've got Andy, Joe, and Lisa on the live chat moderating, and I've just been up for a few tens of minutes, I suppose, and I'm trying to catch up with this, as are the rest of you. So let's first of all make sure you can see and hear me okay. Okay, great. Looks good. Yeah, so we'll try to catch everyone up to what's going on, but we have an eruption that's begun. Um, and the sobering thing is this is actually taking place inside the berm just north of Grindavik. And so we have a very real hazard here at this location. With the town so close. And so let me try to catch you up as best I can. And first of all, thanks to everyone who's joining us right now. Hope everyone's doing well. And we'll just kind of piece our way through this. I've got a couple things to look at here. Amanda Jo will be sending me things. I'm sure a lot of you will also be sharing in the live chat as well. So we'll just kind of all learn as we go. I'm by no means the expert here, and I literally just got up a few minutes ago, so a bit groggy, but also trying to catch up with what's going on here. You can see the old greenhouse here in the webcam, and a small fissure. This is not a large volume output that we're seeing at this south end. So at least the good news right now is the fissure that has opened up near Grindavik seems to be fairly low in terms of lava output. And what's also alarming to me, and let's get to the, let me find this map here that Amanda Jo sent me. If you're new to these live streams, it's a bit, when we're doing these, when the eruption's taking place, it's a bit haphazard and helter-skelter. So let me, here. Yeah, this is a map showing essentially where the eruption is taking place. So you can see Grindavik here, and the berm, the defensive berm, the gray is the older lava flows, and then the red lines there from one of the news agencies is the location of these fissures. You can see one of those, again, within the berm, and then the yellow shows the lava that's been pouring out so far. But what's interesting, again, this is just me looking at literally a few minutes worth of data, is looking at the earthquakes, which at first glance is going to look a little bit overwhelming. So there's earthquakes over the last 24 hours. And what's so crazy here is, literally I just did an update yesterday afternoon before I went home on the 31st. And now we've got so much more going on here. But this is 24 hours. This is all taking place actually over a short period of time. So earthquakes over the whole region. But if we narrow this down to just the last few hours or so, along the fissure line at the northeast end, there is strong earthquake activity continuing there. And so, yeah, so I'm wondering if this will actually move further to the northeast, which would be good for Grindavik. But for the time being, it looks like right now this is where the lava is coming out. If we scroll back the webcam a few hours here, where this all started. The interesting thing is, the webcam on Thorpir is looking towards the northeast. It's looking at the crater row that we would expect. This is where the vent was expected to open up. And then if we kind of move forward a little bit, they eventually realize the eruption is further to the south. And so the webcam gets moved in that direction. Let's see if we can find that exact moment. Scrolling. Yeah, here they are swinging over once they realize that they've got activity off to the south towards town. And so there's, at least this is maybe the first minutes or so view of the eruption. So you can see the fissure there, the lava pouring out. That was the scene. That was about 2 hours ago. And then moving forward, then I've got a nice zoomed in view of the eruption there. I do have word from Johan at Nature Eye that he is on the scene, and we're going to try to put together a drone flight. So see if that happens here soon. That would be spectacular if we could get a drone up and get our own eyes on this, because right now we're looking at this through the webcam. But you can see one long fissure there, a little offsetted segment, and then another one down here. And again, this was a few hours ago, so I think this was the initial fissure. Some great footage there. It's really nice looking stuff. But then eventually the fissure extended. You can see the berm there. So now you can see the lava on both sides of that berm just north of the town. So this is the part that we're most concerned with right now. Shifting gears, I've definitely shifted gears. There you can see it actually breaching the berm, the fissure actually going through the berm and then onto the south side towards town. So I've definitely shifted modes from oh sweet, a nice eruption to look at and enjoy, to having some concern about the town. Now, of course, the town, a lot of those people have sold their homes, but there's still businesses there. They've reopened the town. So we'll just kind of have to see how this goes. I don't want to get into it at this point. Some views there of these advancing flows. Those look like slabby pahoehoes. You can see some of these big slabs are inflating. Big slabs kind of getting pushed over. Bit of a slabby pahoehoe flow there, advancing across the moss. Just kind of scrolling through this here, kind of catching myself up. That's a vent. So that's a fissure right there near the greenhouse. That is a crack that's opened up. And that's a small little vent coming out of the ground there. That is not a lava flow. That is a vent, a part of the vent system. And that's rightfully close to town. There it is, opening up a little bit further to the left. So it looks like this one over this few minutes maybe was lengthening. Got a couple different spots there. But thankfully, again, and we're very early in this right now, the output looks low, especially when we given how much magma we know is in the storage system, how much pressurization is going on. So I think we're definitely not out of the woods yet on this. This just has begun. But what's interesting is we've seen so many of these previous eruptions occur where the vent opens up and then the fissure extends rapidly. We get high fountains, large output, and I'm not sure exactly why. Is it maybe some constriction in this amount of magma that's coming out of this southward vent is inhibited somehow? Yeah, not quite sure what the reason for that is. But it looks a lot like, in terms of just output, it looks a lot like January 14th. It looks very similar to the small fissures that opened up just north of town on January 14th of 2024, which did unfortunately destroy 3 homes. But thankfully, the silver lining in that was that those were not large output flows. And also that January 14th eruption lasted basically a day. So you can see that same, so it looked like it might be extending a little bit there. Yeah, it might be extending a little bit. There's another little opening that opened up to the right there that they panned past. So that looks like that might have lengthening a little bit. And again, we're looking at footage. It's 15, 16 years old, or 15 or 16 minutes old. There's the vent breaching the berm. So it's actually cutting through the berm that had been built up to protect the town. The regional slope here is to the south. So you can see some of the lava actually moving past the berm, so that's good. The lava that's on the north side, which is the lion's share of the lava at this point, is moving around the berm, but we do have some that's breaching it, and then we have some on the other side. The lava flow channels there. There's a picture of the abandoned greenhouse. Yeah, so this bit of infrastructure here is a bit of a relic. It's not using that, as far as I know. Danger to structure really that. And then we'll just catch up to the live view there, and maybe also look at similar view on a different webcam. And please share, and Amanda Jo can send me direct messages. It's hard for me to keep track of what's going on in the live chat and also watch the screens at the same time, but she can send me direct messages or links to things. Like right now, she said, here's a tab she sent me. Pull this over here. See what this has to say. And some of the news outlets in Iceland have like a running kind of live blog, shows you what's going on over time. Let's see. Let's see here. Translate. So it's kind of like the running news blog. Professor at the University of Iceland said spoke to a reporter. This is his quote. I woke up and saw something was happening, headed over there right away. He describes the eruption plumes reached a height of 60 to 70 meters, which are not as high as they have been in the past. Quote, this seems to be a bit less powerful than previous eruptions. This is evolving now. Seems more like Fagradalsfjall, which was a very slow, gradual eruption that lasted a long time. We're looking at the behavior of complex systems. So by studying this, we're trying to get a clue as to what might happen in the future. This is very different from the last 3 eruptions, so it's a bit surprising. And I would agree. This is not the location exactly or the figure of eruption that we kind of thought we would see. And, might have something to do with the plumbing system, especially at this south end, because it does look a lot like the January 14th event. So, but Icelandic authorities and other folks are monitoring this closely. Got that. What else did map there? Here. Let me see if I can get you a couple other webcam views, and we'll see if these are helpful or not. A couple other webcams up in the best. And it's not a bad idea as this goes, especially in light of those earthquakes that are going on further to the north, to also keep an eye on the rest of the Tunakur craters. Like look at the area to the north a bit as well, because that could very well be where we see this all going forward. So I guess looks like the earthquake swarm began. This is from Amanda Jo. Thank you for being on here along with Lisa. 6:30 a.m. They noticed changes in the borehole pressure at the power plant. The eruption was about 9:45 local time. Length of magma tunnel formed is about 11 kilometers. So I don't know if that's actually that seems long for the fissure. I think they might be basing that length off of if you take into account all the earthquakes at that time, this might be the 11-kilometer length there. So the magma, these earthquakes indicate that the magma has intruded into the entire area. So we have magma in the subsurface from near Grindavik all the way up to the northeast. But we're only seeing right now magma erupting from this small little section just north of town. So that'll be interesting forward. Okay, let's see. She sent me a couple other things here. Back to okay, so my friends. Here we go. And I know the Coast Guard at some point was going to get a helicopter up, so I don't know if that's happened yet. But we do try to tap into that when they have that video, either live or whatnot, so that we can see. And you can see right there, I mean, there's a good view for perspective. This little mound of black material here at the far right end of the webcam image, that is the January 14th small vent and lava field that opened up just north of town. You can see some of the houses there. So this is just slightly north of that, between that location and the berm there. Okay. Is okay, so here's a web news feed that has, we've got aerial video shows the proximity to Grindavik. So we do have a little video here in 5 seconds. Add. So here you can see the initial fissure, and then it looks like there's that second one. Yeah, so here's the initial fissure or set of fissures. There's the one cutting the berm. There's the one just beyond the berm, but here's this other one out here, further to the south, closer to town. Let this kind of roll here. You can see a lot of the lava pouring to the west, around the berm. So the berm's doing at least a pretty decent job of deflecting as much of the lava as it can for the time being. Oh, it's a short clip. Yeah, I think we got the whole clip. It's like 15 seconds. But it does give you a good view of how close everything is to the town. There's the abandoned greenhouse there, some scale. Yeah, so thanks Amanda Jo for that. That's actually excellent. Nice image there to kind of let us see what's going on. Air traffic's not affected, she says so far. With the winds, looks like the winds are going from south to north more or less. So there is, she says, some potential air quality issues with the volcanic gases going towards Reykjavik and the more urban areas to the north. She also says the lava may be approaching groundwater. I'm not sure what the basis is for that, other than there's groundwater in the area, high water table. Usually that balancing act between the groundwater and the magma, if you have a large volume of magma coming out, the groundwater kind of gets overwhelmed, it gets sealed off, and you don't get any sort of explosive interactions. But with the small amount of lava being erupted that we see here, it actually might be more of a concern than not. Let's see, her next update says, this is a quote from a foreman at IAV. This eruption is still a terrible mess. If anything, it is decreasing. What could happen now is that these bubbles that are moving along the fissures towards Grindavik could be approaching groundwater that people know about there. There could be some explosions. Black patches could form, but Einar says people aren't too worried about that right now. Which movement on the lava to build the dam to stop the lava flow within the dams. Yeah, they're not going to be able to like raise up another set of berms, to fend off this thing, especially just given you don't know where the next. These fissures, I wouldn't say are well established yet, so these could move and migrate, and other areas could become more active. The defense wall at Grindavik is doing its job and is absorbing the lava that flows outside of it. It's difficult to deal with the lava that flows inside Then he says we'll just have to see and hope. Yeah, so this is kind of just a waiting game to see exactly what happens moving forward. Let me go back to her email here where she had some other webcam views for me to try and see, get a couple different sets of eyes on this as well. And then let me also check, have anything, Johan, not yet. Just let him know. Okay. Yeah, someone in the live chat saying there's no Icelandic helicopter up now. But I don't know if the Coast Guard has got those up yet or not. Okay. Yeah, it looks okay. So that's redundant. Yeah, and we can answer. I'll try to answer any questions folks have. It looks like Amanda Joe has sent me some questions as well. So, is the lava thicker because of the extra time it had to push through? Could be. I mean, we could be seeing, what we may be seeing is not the, we may be seeing residual magma in the subsurface that's stickier and pastier from a earlier magmatic event, an earlier phase of this whole series that's kind of being pushed out at this time. Obviously, they'll get in there as soon as they can, and when and where it's safe, and get a sample and look at the geochemistry, and that will answer a lot of those questions as to. I really don't feel like it's a thickness issue right now. I think it's just an output issue. We're just not seeing, it's like we've put a little pinhole in the system and a little bit is oozing out, but we still have a huge amount in the subsurface storage system that's pressurized and just not seeing as much of that coming out yet. Jan Clancy wants to know, what are the chances of this flowing into the sea? I'd say probably low probability, but certainly not zero probability. If we look at where this is actually happening, if we throw the berms in there, so we've got, let's see here, what's our real distance here? So two options here in terms of getting the lava to the ocean. One is you have enough lava erupting outside the berms that it wraps around the berms and goes to the sea. Now that's a longer route for the lava to go, and so that would take longer. It would also require larger output of lava. The second option would be this lava vent, this volcanic vent that's opened up near the greenhouse inside the berm. It's not far from there to the harbor, which is not not a good place. We would like to keep that harbor. There's businesses and infrastructure there. This is the whole reason Grindavik exists, is it has this natural harbor to protect it from the waves on the ocean. And if we just look and see, more or less from the greenhouse area down to the water edge there, that's about a mile or 1.5 kilometers. So it's not that far, but right now I just don't think we're seeing enough output from those fissures. You're going to need a lot more lava, or it's going to need to be sustained over a much longer period of time to get it down to the sea. And of course, that would necessitate it basically running through the homes. Now, the other option, if the fissures stay in place, one option is lava goes around the berm. The other option is lava goes from within the berm to the ocean. And then but the third possibility, and of course this is one we don't hope for by any means, is that another fissure opens further to the southeast, or that fissure lengthens and brings it closer to the sea that way. So that's another possibility. And if you look at the earthquake distribution, if I can find that, then you can see that that's definitely a possibility, because we do have earthquakes and we have magma that has intruded all the way down into this area. And maybe we know that we've got magma that's intruded the whole length. So what looks like it's happened here is, unlike the past events where the magma broke free at a given location and erupted, and we had a swarm in a tight cluster, this earthquake pattern looks a lot like November 10th, 2023, when the whole magma dike actually formed. This looks like a re-intrusion of the magma across the whole length of the dike. So it created more space for itself here. And if we can take out, I mean, look at some of these are a lot of large quakes. If we just take out the 2s and above, and this may be why we're seeing just a small amount erupting right now, is the magma in storage underneath the power plant has moved into and created another or a larger dike system running from northeast to southwest, and we're just seeing one little section of it that is erupting right now. And so, potentially this might be all that opens up. But these larger quakes here, you see the 3.7, these larger ones up here to the northeast, north of Stora Stokfelt. This is up in the area where we had the August eruption. Those ones are interesting to me, as are the ones, further to the southeast, just to the west of Grindavik. We have 4 3s that have occurred in the last 12 hours or so. So a good way to maybe look at what might happen moving forward is to just check out the quakes. If we look at just the last hour, the most active area is up here. So the quakes as a guide at this point, this might continue to ooze out lava near Grindavik, but we might also keep an eye on this area up here to the northeast as the location of a possible second eruption site, which would be something different. If we had 2 vents separated by a few kilometers, that would be definitely something a little bit different what we've seen in the past. But for now, we've got our eyes kind of fixated on this area here. Okay, let's see. Couple other questions. I'm trying to multitask here. From Torsten Bunge, possible separate magma chamber to the north. Yeah, I think we just kind of talked about that a little bit. It's not necessarily a separate magma chamber. In fact, I think we can clearly see that it's all one magma body delineated by the earthquakes that we see over the past 12 or so hours. So that's one fairly tabular, elongated magma body. That's what those earthquakes are showing. And we just maybe have, but we're still seeing activity to the northeast. So it's still pressurized and breaking rock up here, even though we're getting some of that pressure release taking place with the current eruption site near Grindavik. But the fact that there's more magma breaking rock up in this area, at least is possibly is occurring possibly because there's going to be or could be another eruption at that end. Brother Monk, why do you think the eruption is a lot smaller here, even though the pressure is higher than last eruptions? Yeah, I think the magma, instead of the whole system being pressurized and one conduit from the magma body coming out and erupting out of one vent that lengthens a little bit, what the earthquake pattern, I think, clearly shows that we've got had a highly pressurized system, and a large volume of that magma has been injected into a dike, a secondary dike, more or less mirroring the one from November 2023. And so now we're seeing how much, so now it's a question of how much of that injected subsurface magma that's in the dike out of the storage zone by Svartsengi, how much of that will erupt. And these earthquakes, of course, create more space for the magma because the magma is under pressure. And, is the extra space it's making enough to accommodate the magma, or does it necessitate, it can't break any more subsurface rocks, then it can start breaking through to the surface. And then finally, one last question here from Amanda Jo from Gabby. Can it be that there's a lateral movement of magma at a depth of 5 kilometers to the west and east of the Sundakur Range? The earthquakes of the last 2 months look like this. I wouldn't expect anything to move out of this zone. I don't expect, this is not going to move. This is messy, sorry. Out to the, out to this area out here or further to the east. So I don't expect any of the magma to move out of this zone at this time. I think these are probably more stress-related quakes that are happening over here. We've seen some quakes there over the past few weeks anyway. But right now, all bets are all hypotheses are on the table, I suppose, as possibilities. Okay, and I haven't even got to the Met update. See if we update this and see if we get, so the fissure, this is from 11:20 local time. The fissure's extended southward. A new fissure opened a few meters inside the dikes north of Grindavik. So here's, they did put the Coast Guard up at some point, but that does show a view of the fissure extending across the berm. This black pad here, of course, is the January 14th one. But we did just see, since they posted this, there was another section of the fissure that opened up just in this area here. Yeah, southwesterly winds, gases blowing to the northeast. That could bring it over the capital area. Winds are supposed to subside, but then the gas pollution will mainly be near the fissure. That's important to consider there. Yeah, and just a few there. Johan says, okay. So I think when we can patch into Johan and do the drone flight, we will as soon as we can. Yeah, I got the latest Met Office thing. Okay, anything else going? Circus. Someone asked if we're witnessing the slow birth of a shield volcano. Too early to tell, but unlikely. It's still a fissure. So in order to get a shield volcano, we would need to consolidate this linear trend of the vent would need to be consolidated down to one vent, and we would need to have a long-term, likely months or so, type of an eruption that would slowly build up a shield. So you need one centralized vent versus a fissure orientation to see that. Let's see, if you look at just the last 30 minutes of quakes, it looks like it's moving north. Yeah, let's see if we can see that on the earthquake data. Switch over to get an hour first. Add in the quakes. There's the location last hour. We look at the last 30 minutes. Yeah, a little bit more to the northeast perhaps. If we go 15 minutes, same area. Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of a suggestion of that. It does take out some of those quakes there. Yeah, definitely that's the area to maybe, I mean, continue to monitor where we're seeing the eruption, of course. We want to see how long that goes and where the lava is opening up. But there's nothing right now in the earthquake data, at least, that suggests that the fissures are going to lengthen or possibly open up further to the south. Again, just based off the seismic data. And so this area to the north, this clearly shows magma's moving underground there. It's just a question of, is it going to move up to the surface. So let's look at the depth of these quakes real quick. 3.4. Get in here and look at these bigger ones here. 4.7, 2.9, 5.1. So they're a little bit all over the place. And you can kind of see those over here as well. Variety of depths. Shallowest maybe, that's not even in the area, but that's a 1 kilometer. These other ones quite in the area. So still down there, you know, it's still a few kilometers down, but we know it can work its way to the surface pretty quickly. Doesn't take long. Yeah, and for those that are just jumping on, welcome, and thanks again to Lisa and Amanda Joe for manning the live chat for us. Thanks for those that are donating to the cause, much appreciated. We're just here to learn along with you and to kind of catch this thing in real time as best we can. So there's this one vent, this fissure vent that's pushed its way through and is erupting right through the berm. Pretty crazy to see that. Actually thermally eroding the berm that they constructed there. Let's catch this one up to 5. That view, zoomed out view. So this view's looking, I think, at the fissure system further to the north of the berm. And then this camera is mainly focusing on the stuff closest to town. Excuse me. And then to the northeast, you know, we might see something take place there. Let's wait and see. Yeah, I don't know if Gylfi is down there or not. Spoken with him a while. And we'll see if we get our good friends at Nature Eye. He's already out there. Johan's already out there. The last thing I got from him, well, about an hour ago, he said, let's stream soon. I sent him some messages, and then he said, okay, about 6 minutes. See if we can get Johan, Nature Eye, to help us out here with a little flyover ourselves and to check out what's going on. So this is looking, I just realized where this camera is at. This is looking to the west. So here's Thorbjorn here. There's the active eruption site there by the greenhouse and the berms. So we're looking at it from the east to the west. Here's the old Sunukur steaming, outgassing crater series here. So the power plant is just over here through this gap here. There's Silingerfeld and Storastogfeld there. All right, Amanda Joe just sent me something else. Let's see if this works. She's got a video. Might be able to hear eruption. I can settings. All right, already looked at that one. So she just sent me another link. Hear that? That's the sound of the eruption.
Í þessari þáttaröð munum við, líkt og áður, fylgjast með 3 pörum.
Let's see if we can say that again, perhaps. Okay, let me see if I can grab that again. And yeah, it sounds like maybe some folks are able to hear that. So, okay. Because people are often, that's a question we commonly get is, what does it sound like? And pulsating jet noises is usually the best words I can come up with to kind of describe it. So let's try this one more time. Unmute the foot here. And let's see. So
Í þessari þáttaröð munum við, líkt og áður, fylgjast með 3 pörum, taka fjármálin sín í gegn yfir 5 mánaða tímabil.
kind of paused right there. Here we go.
Í þessari þáttaröð munum við, líkt og áður, fylgjast með 3
kind of a low sound, so if you had trouble hearing it, I did too, and I have earphones on, so it's, I had it up as high as I could, but it was kind of a lower sound. But it does get, if you were able to hear that, it does give you a little sense of what that actually sounds like. So there's a better view of the length of the fissure system north of the berm, and now they're kind of panning back over to where this area is south of the berm towards the greenhouse. So, just probably maybe 1.5 kilometers or so of length, but it's not pumping out a tremendous amount of lava. So if it stays at this rate, this could be good, because there's quite a bit of space here for this lava, even though the regional slope downhill heads towards town. There's a lot of space out here for this lava to just sort of pile up. And then the stuff on the north side of the berm, of course, a lot of that will be deflected alongside the berm. These defensive walls will do their job. So it's quite possible that we might not see this get much worse for the town. It's really just a matter of if it stays here, if it stays at this rate, and kind of what goes on moving forward. So this is eruptions maybe a few hours in so far. I'm going to go back to the Met Office update and look at the initial report here. So yeah, the intense earthquake storm began at 6:30 this morning. And so they had clear measurements that the magma on the move, but at that time there wasn't any magma at the surface, but they felt confident there was an eruption that was going to begin. You can see where those earthquakes were. Well, that's over the last 7 days. Of course, we know now that the actual eruptive vent was a little bit further south than that. And then the next update, 8:20. Signal from the deformation sensors are stronger than those seen in recent events. This indicates a considerable amount of magma is on the move. Next one was that the eruption had begun just north of the berm at Grindavik. That was at 9:45. A Coast Guard helicopter was supposed to go up. And then the length of the magma tunnel, which is the intrusion, the dike, is about 11 kilometers, which is the longest since the November. There's their first indications of how long and where the fissure was. With respect to the berm, here's the town. Pink is the older lava flows. And then 15 minutes later, the crack is now about 500 meters wide and now is breached through the dam, the berm north of Grindavik. Continues to grow, and it can't rule out that it will continue to open to the south. Then later, about half an hour later, it was 700 meters long and stable, but it could move further south or north. Then here's our most recent one here from 11:20 local time, that the fissure extended southward. A new fissure opened a few hundred meters inside the dikes. But again, these are the kind of small ones that are pumping out small volumes at this. So those are the Met Office updates so far, and those are likely to continue to change. It'd be nice to see that Coast Guard. They obviously did get up and took pictures. I don't know if there's video available of that somewhere. That would be neat to see. Need to get a webcam up that's looking to east. Let's see what question here. We'll see if we can get a webcam. She's looking for the Coast Guard video for us as well. Appreciate all you're doing to help us out, along with Lisa on the live chat. Yeah, if you want to ask questions in there, just follow their prompts. Might take a little longer than normal to get those questions to me, just because we're also trying to also keep up to date with everything else that's going on. Okay, so here's maybe our best webcam being out in that direction. Is this at? Because we might be seeing, is this lava that's starting to come up here? A little bit of red glow there. Figure out what they're at here. Just switch over to this. They've been looking at the same thing recently. Starting to look. Okay, so here's a new vent starting to pop off right here, and just trying to get a sense for where that is exactly. This could be further to the northeast. See that magma's kind of goopy and sticky, pasty. Once it gets going, though, it's going to be typically a lot more fluid. We'll scroll back here a bit. See. Stuff to. Oh, maybe they're just zoomed in on one of those fissures. I thought this was a different area. Okay. Oh, my apologies. I thought that was east of the. This camera here is kind of showing greenhouse and the area as well. I think they've moved all the cameras down to this end for now. This is just super zoomed in on that. Yeah, my apologies. I thought maybe that was like a new new vent opening up further to the northeast, but this is just, there they are. There we're there. I think this is the area kind of near. Yeah, so these are the ones right by the greenhouse. I might be able to. Actually, you can see this little cone shape here. There's the greenhouse right there. Yeah, so we're still kind of focusing in that same area. Just such a small volume, so interesting. Of course, the ones to the north here are erupting a little more vigorously and a little more fluidity. Got cameras. This view, 5. There. Not sure what this easel looking. Thing. Box thing. Instruments, maybe? Maybe it's some scientific instrument they're trying to move now that it's so close to the edge of the flow there. Yeah, it could be a GPS station. A lot of times those are anchored to the rock, so probably some things they can move, but some things they have to leave. Mounting stuff. Okay, a couple other questions coming in. What's from Demetrius? What's the interaction between the current magma intruding and the older magma from last year's big and solidified yet? They're perhaps being pushed upwards into the surface. Yeah, I mean, it's hot red glowing stuff, so it's hard to say visually if we're looking at older magma that's just below the surface for some time versus newer, fresh, what we call primitive magma that's making its way to the surface. That's where the analysis will really come in. So some of that was just me speculating, not sure. So I really don't know until they get the chemical analysis, for sure. From Jose Manu, can we expect more eruptions as the entire fissure has refilled, or could this be the last in this area? I'm not ready to say it's over. We've clearly seen signs that indicate that the eruption or the influx of magma seems to be slowing. I think that's a definite trend that we've seen. But I'm not ready to say that it's done, that this is going to be the last one. We'll have to see. We'll just have to see how long this one lasts, this eruption lasts, when it ends, and if we continue to see magma rising into the subsurface in this region. From Annoying Anonymous. What's the best and worst case scenario? Well, I think, just from an infrastructure human standpoint, best case scenario is this kind of stays exactly where it is. Maybe this south vent shuts down. Maybe that north vent really gets going, because if we do have things switch over to that north side of the dike, um, the vents opening up there. There's a lot of space for the lava to go. It's away from the infrastructure. It's away from the power plant. So far, the eruptions of these right now and the locations that they're in do not threaten at all the Blue Lagoon or the power plant. That could change, of course. So I'd say that was, maybe probably best case scenario. Worst case scenario would be these south vents increase in terms of their vigor and their output, and that would be pretty bad for Grindavik. Flows going into the ocean could create some local and somewhat regional hazards as well. I think that would be bad news. So it looks like they're trying to they're just taking that whole thing apart and moving the whole GPS station out. That would be my guess, is they realized, oh, that's kind of close to one of our stations, and let's get everything out of there that we can. Establish that station somewhere else. Let's see. From someone says, is this the 8th or 9th eruption in Iceland? This is since the December eruption started in 2023. This is early. It's the 8th eruption. So we had December 18th, 2023, January 14th, 2024, February 8th, 2024, March 16th, 2024, May 29th, 2024, August 22nd of the same year, November 20th was our last eruption, and now we have our April 1st. I'm writing it down on my paper here. 5. Definitely not an April Fool's joke. From Amanda Joe, from Benedict Ofigson, magma can flow down through cracks under Grindavik and emerge within the town. Scientists are concerned the lava may... There's little flow on the southernmost crack and it's not large. It's slightly lengthening towards Grindavik. That's not good. If the lava flow is long enough, it could enter the town. There are large cracks under Grindavik, and we are concerned that magma will flow up the cracks and up somewhere within the town. That's a possibility. Right, so we know that Grindavik's been damaged over time by the earthquakes that we had in fall of 2023. There's a lot of fractures and cracks that run through town, and so there is a possibility that you could see some of this magma emerging through some of those cracks and up into town. So while there's no evidence that is happening, that is definitely a possibility. Okay, let's see, what do we want to do? Back to lava view by the greenhouse, add dash to scientific. Stay there for yes. Grindavik Fire Chief says that the Grindavik is in danger due to the volcanic eruption that began this morning. If the lava reaches the town, everything will be done to try to change says influence the flow, like change the lava flows. To this end, all means will be used, both lava cooling equipment and earth moving machinery, to minimize damage as much as possible. So it sounds like they're gearing up potentially for kind of fighting the lava in and around Grindavik if it comes. Minister of Infrastructure says that the Civil Protection is working on preparations for cooling the lava and the construction of dams due to the eruption at the Sunu crater. So maybe they are going to try to put up some berms closer to the town. There you go. They got that. That was pretty quick. That was maybe 5 minutes of work with those 3 or 4 people that were able to completely disassemble and remove the GPS monitoring station there at that site. Well done. Stuff. And Johan just landed. He's been doing some other flights, and he's going to create a flight for us. So we will be doing a flight here with Johan, sounds like in the next few minutes or so. That's great news. Yeah, Maximilian, still confused why we got huge clusters of earthquake, but the eruption came. Um, Lost the question. But yeah, the idea is that I'm not quite sure exactly, other than the earthquake data and looking at that clearly shows that there was a large intrusion of magma, whether it reoccupied the same space as the original dike, widened it, or is sitting there very close to it in parallel. I can't say for sure spatially, but definitely we had magma move into that zone, out of the storage zone, or at least partially leave the storage zone. It'll be interesting to see with the GPS data if we see some deflation and how much deflation we see, because we really have not seen a large volume of lava erupt onto the surface. There's far more magma in the subsurface than has been erupted so far. So we'll have to see how that looks moving forward. And why is it erupting such a small amount at the south end? Maybe it's not fully connected, and maybe there's a smaller secondary magma storage zone that's not. We think of these magma storage zones as one big bubble of magma, but it could be there's multiple storage areas, and maybe they places are not interconnected, and so we're seeing maybe a smaller supply erupt and create the eruption that we're seeing right now, possibly. All right, so we got I'm assuming those are, either Met Office employees, since those are probably their scientific equipment. Um, they're kind of out looking at the edge of the flow. Maybe they're going to get a sample while they're there. Guy is wearing thermal, looks to be like a thermal protective coat. Didn't see if he had like, a rock hammer or something else to collect lava with. All right, Johan set up a flight for us. Great. Get that going. So we should be able to check out things. As a scientist, while I get this flight set up. Nature. I think he got a chunk maybe of some older rock solidified. Okay. Code to go. All right, so I think looks like our flight's set up. We're going to switch over to that here in a second. Just go fix him here. So yeah, while we're waiting for Nature, be sure to check out their website. They do a great job of providing these drone flights, not just in Iceland, but in other places. You can use the code ShawnFly, my name, and SHAWNFLY, and check out, you get a 10% discount on flight. All right, so we'll wait for Johan here. Anyway, you can yeah, get 10% off your flight, or you can gift it to someone else. Sounds like he's been doing a couple flights this morning. I thought I saw one of our viewers that did a flight with Nature and Johan this morning, so they maybe can chime in and speak to that. Hello, sir.
Hello, how are we doing?
Good, how are you?
Hello there, how are we doing?
Can you hear me okay? Hello?
Can you hear me? I
Yeah.
cannot hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Let's
There we go.
yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Anyway.
You there? Get this figured out.
Okay, you can hear me, that's fine.
Yep.
Just I cannot hear you, but that doesn't matter. Now, let me just pop in the video stream and give control over to you.
Great.
So, okay. All right, we are. So, Grindavik, you keep sending me messages on the phone, Shawn. I got the phone in my pocket. That's very kind of. It's very kind of. Oh no, it's not you. It's fine. So everybody, please stop sending me messages. I'm just going to give control to you, Shawn, and I'm just going to fly straight to Miss May 24. No, we had a conversation about that. It's not a Miss or a Mrs. It's just our beloved volcano from May 29.
Great.
And we are good to go. So,
Okay.
Shawn, just take it away.
Okay.
And then just fly a little bit to the left of Silingafat towards our favorite crater. We do have the 4G modem on the drone, so it's not really working all that well today, the phone connection, but I'll try and keep it in RC connection. So yeah, just yaw it with your left hand to the right. No, I mean to the left. No, you're not yawing, yeah, that's the yawing. Okay. Just keep going towards the crater that's just to the left of Mount Silingafat. Right there, yeah.
Okay.
Little overshoot there. Try and stay as low as possible. We don't need height, and the height you have on your screen, doesn't include the thickness of the lava. So if it says you're 70, you're at like 50 when we are at that crater. Now, the thickness of the lava field is around 34 meters since before December 18th, 23. Now, let me just, I'm going to let you do the flying. I'm going to just fix the light sensor and try and get the video quality as good as possible. So Grindavik was evacuated early this morning. We have this like World War II style air raid siren, like old school, that goes off. And so I'm not going to try and get anywhere closer. There is a media tour going in town. And I think we all felt the same way this morning that, oh, they're going to evacuate the town. I mean, why bother? But the magma flow that was sort of trying to break out around the northern edge, or sort of around the same place it erupted in November, 21 November till December 10. It could not find its way through, so the magma run was a double one to the south, one to the north. And I must say, when I did my first flight this morning, it really looked awful. So a wall of fire just outside the defensive walls, and a little part of it even within the defensive walls. Now, already on my second flight, it looked like it was petering out. It was petering out, and but then on the third flight, well, you kind of never know, because it sometimes oscillates. You know, like it looks like it's growing weaker, and then it goes stronger again. So too early to call. You can turn a little to the right, so we head a little bit towards, sort of try to place ourselves, yeah, like this, even a little bit more to the right. Then we try and place ourselves where we can see the eruption, and you can add a little height, that's fine, because the height you see on the left-hand side, again, isn't really showing the thickness of the lava field. So I want to stay like lower than 60. I do have ADS-B running. I don't see any aircraft warning. There is a helicopter over Svartsengi right now, heading towards, so yeah. So yeah, it looked awful in the beginning, but I think it's one of those magma runs, the horizontal magma run that when we became famous, me and you, Shawn, on January 14th last year, then that wasn't like coming straight up from the ground. It was just finding its way through the crack, through the fissure, horizontally, and sort of squeezing its way up. And so I think it's going to be much better than it actually looks. Oh, you're losing a little signal here. Let me just try and get us.
Right. So if you're listening to me, Johan can't hear me. We got something going on with the communication thing, but you should be able to hear him and me.
So get to a nice place where we can.
We'll make do here. If he's talking, I'll try to bow out so you're not hearing both voices. But there you can see some of there's the fissure there, the head, over the nose here of Hagafell.
All right, I'm gonna again focus on the video quality here.
Nice view there, looking
so you can see
down the rift.
It is growing weaker. There is still some simmering from where it's inside the wall, and you can't really see the wall anymore.
Yeah, the berm. Yeah, it's kind of gone because it's erupted right through it.
So because I cannot hear you, Shawn, I'm just going to let you do the talking and the flying. You just zoom in and out, move the drone a little, and I will just kind of try and fix the focus manually. And all right, take it away, Shawn.
Okay, thanks, Johan. We got something frozen there. See that? Oh, now we just lost signal. We'll see if we can get that back up here in a second. Sorry, we're dealing with a little bit of issue here with the communications and such.
Yeah, so, okay. So we went into auto return.
Right.
I just forgot to tell you, don't move anywhere, because we're gonna gonna break the connection. So let's just stay here and you do the zooming and the talking and
Okay. Yeah, so this might be as close as we can get for now, but we can take pictures and we can do a little bit of the zooming here and kind of checking out the eruption site a little bit more. So like Johan was saying, it was a little bit more impressive and vigorous earlier in some of his other flights. And now at least this southern section that we're looking at closer to town, things have, you know, petered out just a little bit, and kind of died down a skosh. So we're mainly just seeing these fairly small fissures just erupting, but continuously, right? I mean, this is similar in many respects to like the Fagradalsfjall eruption as well. So let's see if we can kind of poke around a little bit here. He talked a little bit about...
I'm gonna go on mute because I have a power station running here.
Yep, no problem. No, he can't hear me, so I don't know why I'm talking to him. But yeah, he talked about like the evacuation at Grindavik. This morning they had kind of like an air raid siren go off that kind of alerted them to what was going on there. A couple pictures here, but you can see that far vent here. There's also this plume of steam coming out here. I wonder if we can zoom in on that and check that out, because it almost looks like maybe a new vent that's going to open up, or at least it's close to surface. I don't know if we can try to go a little bit. Go any closer or not, but let's actually get the zoom. Go forward a little bit more. Out this spot. But appreciate Johan for squeezing us in. Sounds like he had a pretty full schedule of flights going on. That would not be good if we had, you know, if that looks to me like that's a vent that's close to opening up at the surface, which would not be good because that's further south. So you can see these aren't lined up perfectly at this point. It's not even so much a fissure, and for the most part, it's a bit these sort of singular vents that are crudely aligned. Go to the left here. Lost the control. So I wonder if he's flying so far outside the area that that it's running into some signal issues. Okay, so here we have Hagafelt, this hill here, which has these big cracks at the bottom from a previous eruption. Now it looks like we're pulling away. Hard to tell because we can't talk right now, or at least I can hear him, but he can't hear me. Be dealing with it there. But yeah, nice image there, looking down along the fissures. There's the low end of Hagafelt in the foreground, and that could stay like that. Sometimes these, you know, the magma is just not quite to the surface. You just get the gas coming out of cracks. You know, might not actually see lava coming out of that, but that looks eerily similar to what we saw on January 14th when the fissure opened up just near town. So a good view there. exactly kind of what's going on. Got that small fissure a little bit further, closer to town. Yep, right there. It's still erupting. But for the most part, these fissures aren't producing large flows that are moving, outward in any considerable manner. So while lava is piling up close to the vent and is flowing, a little bit out from the vent, we're just not seeing, substantial advances of the lava in any given direction, at least so far. So this is an interesting eruption. This is different than what we've seen in the past. We know the model estimates are that we have more magma in the subsurface than ever before, but not all magma in the subsurface is what we call eruptible magma. It depends on the gas concentrations of the plumbing system that magma takes to get to the surface. Lots of factors go into how much of this material actually makes it to the surface. But it's still a pretty sobering view. I guess, had we not experienced January 14th, this might feel a little more ominous, but in some respects we've seen this before and it turned out pretty good, given that it could have been much worse on that day. And this still, could take any sort of turn either for the better or for the worst. So it's still quite early to make any sort of calls there. Like Johan's just giving us a nice view. You can see some of the lava spatter coming out. And so some of these are fountaining lava and material up, tens of meters for sure. Kind of a zoomed out view. Steaming craters here. And this, right here is where we expected it to erupt. This was the most likely location given where the past eruptions had been and where we'd seen seismicity over the past few weeks. But welcome to the world of volcanology, where you're often surprised and things don't always go as forecasted. We oftentimes are, I wouldn't say surprised, but at least, it's not as expected. We get a different result than what was anticipated at times. Again, there's that little vigorous outgassing zone further south and a little bit east of that plume. And it may continue like that. So interestingly, we're just not seeing any activity, outgassing or otherwise, further to the northeast, other than the earthquakes. So this is old outgassing from these older flows. This has been going on for months. And we're just not seeing any of the activity move up into this section just yet. Undoubtedly, there's still, fractures and cracks in the ground and other pathways that the magma might take, but those so far haven't proven to be an efficient way to get that magma to the surface like we're seeing it at the south end right now. Right along the crater row here, east. So it was nice that we were able to, Johan was able to fit us in for a quick flight. Been pretty busy this morning. And again, you guys can book your own flight with Johan and Nature Eye, just one-on-one, you and him. He'll be at the controls to take over. Make sure you keep it safe. Pretty easy to do. It's just pushing buttons on your keyboard, forwards, backwards, left, right. You can move the camera. You can control the zoom. I think you guys can see a lot of the controls there on the screen, a little map in the top right corner. And if you use the code SHAWNFLY, SHAWNFLY, you can get 10% off your flight. It's a cool experience. It's been a game changer for myself, for learning about this Icelandic terrain and these eruptions. So it's been a fun partnership with them, to work with them. And so I just encourage folks to check out Nature Eye. They also have other locations on other continents. So when things aren't happening in Iceland or you want to try a different experience, you can get on there and try some of the other locations that they have. Great view there. Johan's a very, very experienced pilot. He does a good job of not only flying the drone, but also telling you, and he's a great guide and very, very patient and thorough in his instructions, and will help you have a great experience. I think others that have done this can speak to that as well. So we'll let him take this in, and then we'll say goodbye to Johan. Might be a time maybe later today or in the next few days where we'll try to set something up again with him if needed. There's the power plant over there on the left side, out of view. Stora Stogfeld. And then this is Johan just taking it back into where he took off. So these hills that stick up here, these are these older subglacial volcanoes that piled up not lava, but more like pillow lavas and explosive tephra, this material we call hyaloclastite. That's what a lot of the topographic hills around Grindavik and on the Reykjanes are older volcanoes that erupted beneath glaciers. And then we have these more low relief shield volcanoes and fissures and other vents that erupted after the glaciers had receded from this. So we'll let him take it in. At some point, he'll probably jump back on here with the microphone and wish us well. I don't think he was planning a second flight. I'm not sure. I'll have to see, get closer. And again, he and I are having a little technical difficulties with communication where I can hear him, you can hear both of us, but he cannot hear me for some reason. So there's the edge of the field, over the older flows with the moss. They're from at least 800 or so years ago, these flows. And then once we cut out here with Johan, we'll switch back over to looking at the webcams. I think Amanda Jo has sent me some information. We'll get kind of re-updated on what's going on. A couple things she's told me is that there's a hot water pipe that broke in Grindavik. Total length of the eruption fissure is now about 1.2 kilometers, 1,200 meters. Right. Get it in for landing. And there we are. Good view of the rocks in Iceland. Lots of basalt. And Johan Subaru. Always helpful. Well, I know he can't hear me, but I want to give Johan a shout out. Thanks to him and to Nature Eye for putting this together. Like we're signed off, so we're good there. Go ahead and leave that on, but I'll just cut out of that for now. Back to seeing what the webcams look like for now. So there's the fissures we saw near the greenhouse. Again, we've got this flow field out here. The thing's not advancing very far. There's some small channelized sections in here. Wider view from the east. There. If we have a new Met Office update. Yeah, 1,200 meters, as Amanda Jo said. Hot water pipe is broken in the northern part of Grindavik. This confirms that considerable cracking has occurred within the town. Seismic activity continues along the entire magma corridor, with the highest activity at the northeast end of the corridor, which we talked about up here. Magma corridor now extends about 3 kilometers further northeast than seen in previous eruptions. Deformation data also shows continued northeast movement. This suggests that magma is still moving through the magma corridor. So we're definitely not done yet. Oh, he's saying he can do another flight with a better modem so we can get closer. That sounds good to me if you guys are okay with that. Just text him real quick there. So he's going to be ready to go in about 2 minutes. We'll do another flight here with Johan in a few minutes. Just try to update you. So yeah, seismic activity continuing at this northeast end. We can go to earthquake data directly. Let's just look over the last hour or so, and you can see. So we have some increased seismic activity just to the west of Grindavik, and then this big cluster here. And so what they've said in that Met Office update is the magma length, the intrusion in the subsurface has extended further to the northeast than it has been previously. So basically, the way I would interpret that is the magma, we have so much capacity and magma in the subsurface that it's moved into the existing dike, probably widened it. That's why we had earthquakes occurring along the length of it, but it's also pushed and lengthened that dike overall further to the northeast, and maybe a little bit further to the southwest as well, but although that's pretty much the same sort of area. So these two areas we see here are places where the magma in the subsurface is still breaking rock. That does not necessarily mean that that's where the magma is going to erupt at the surface. I think we're just draining a small amount of magma at this area north of Grindavik currently where the eruption's taking place, but these zones and these earthquakes over the last hour tell us that we still have tremendous amount of magma that's pressurized, that's still forcing its way through cracks, finding new places to propagate, break the rock open. And so these would be areas to continue to look at moving forward. This area in here is interesting as well. We're getting some 2s and 3s down over here. Not sure what to make of those there, but for now, I think there's more seismic. Well, there's probably more earthquakes happening here, but in terms of just seismic energy, you could argue that they're comparable because there's bigger earthquakes that have happened here. There's a 3.58 that occurred just within the last hour in this little zone. And if we try to change time frame here to maybe last half hour or so, maybe I've never done 10 minutes. Yeah, even just 10 minutes, there's the 3 there and then that cluster there. So still quite a bit of intense seismic activity going on at both ends of this magma, this intrusion. So it's undoubtedly between these two as well. It's just that we're not seeing it reflected in the seismic data because it's already occupying this zone, but it seems like it's propagating further to the northeast and southwest, and that's what's producing the earthquakes at either end of this zone here, this intrusion. Yeah, people reporting on another channel that they can feel the earthquakes. Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. Pretty incredible. Let's see here. Fight or fight there. ask him real quick. Hope everyone's doing well. But we'll probably try to keep this going, this live stream going, maybe another hour or so. I do have classes to teach this morning in about less than 2 hours, so I'll have to duck out here at some point, and then I can circle back later, possibly when classes are done. It looks like we have some of the video taken from the Coast Guard flight. So let's pull that up while we're waiting for Johan. Connecting to a stronger all right, well, Johan's ready to go, so let's switch over to that, and then we'll look at this later. Oops. All right, so we're gonna go do another quick flight. Johan. I think he's still muted, so I don't know. So it's probably just me for now. We'll see if he jumps on here. And when you get on these live streams during the eruption, it's definitely not a slick production. It's a bit of a just trying to figure it out as we go, but we'll do the best we can. So we'll fly back over the Sunu craters, and then we'll head back down to the same point we're at there. Hopefully we'll have a little better connectivity than we did on the first one. And hopefully be able to get some nice images, kind of see what's going on. Yeah, I wonder with this event, again, you know, we're just spitballing ideas here. You had the magma storage zone under the power plant area in the Blue Lagoon that was filled to capacity. It was pressurized. It was ready to go. And then a large volume of that magma, who knows how much, moved in the last 12 hours or so into the dike, that northeast southwest trending dike that formed in November 2023, reoccupied it, lengthened it, probably widened it as well. And depending on how much magma you moved into that zone, you've created some more space, and now maybe the system's not under as much pressure as it was previously, and that might be why we're seeing a noticeable reduction in lava output. Is you've moved the magma into a new zone, you've redistributed it a bit in the ground, and that might be why we're seeing these smaller kind of sluggish eruptions instead of what we were expecting was a big fountain of lava, high output, fast moving flows. Remember, we saw those previously, but those were when the magma moved from the storage area through what would seem to be a single conduit out to a vent that lengthened along a fissure, versus this event where we had all the the seismic activity, all the earthquakes taking place over such a big region. So it is a different event in that sense. Swing around this way a little bit. Oh, so this should put us right on track for looking at the eruption. So here's Hagafelt coming up on next to us. Manda Joe continues to send me messages that I'll share with you folks when we get the drone flight. Yeah, good perspective there, Metageta. I'm sitting in my backyard watching a live drone feed of an eruption in Iceland. I have no issues with production values. Right. That's how I feel. Good enough is good enough, right? This is still pretty awesome that we have these capabilities and this technology to be able to do. So it does look so far that the connection's better. Sometimes it can pixelate and stuff as we get further away, but he's got a setup with a little better setup here. Starting to see Grindavik come into view. And as we come over the east side of Hagafelt, we should be able to see the eruption site a little bit better. Starting to see the... Hey, there you are. Can you hear me? Probably not. Unmuted, I think. All right, so we'll see how close we can get here. Connection here. Yeah, he just said the connection's good with the modem, and to let him know if I need him for anything. So we'll see how close we can get in here. Get a bit of a view of things. Go. Go. We're going over the east end of... Camera up. We can see those eruptive fissures still going. Again, quite sluggish compared to what we've seen in other places. And looks like Johan's taken over to give me a little better view here. But you can see it's, yeah, kind of winding down. And I think the reports are, I think some of the things I've seen from Mandajo is this southern edge. It seems like, you know, maybe it's peaked a little bit in terms of its intensity. Again, things can change. We know there's still a lot of magma in the subsurface there. But we'll have to see how this evolves moving forward. Okay, looks like I'm back. Controls. You can see the defensive berm, that wall right there in the middle of our view. Then let's go. There's some of the houses just beyond. Out just a little bit. See the whole thing. Swing around. bit more. Line it up there. There again, there's this brown in the foreground. That's the end of the Hagafelt. Zoomed in a little bit here. It, camera kind of focus. So there's the greenhouse, the defensive berm, kind of running through the middle ground there, and these small fissures, you know, very close to where we saw the fissures from January 14th. This is somewhat reminiscent of that in terms of location and sort of the eruptive style. The berms are doing a pretty good job of deflecting most of the lava coming out of these existing fissures to the east and west. But then we do have one of the fissures that's completely breached the berm, and then we have a couple small ones just on the inside of it as well, towards Grindavik. You know, it may be what we're seeing, you know, we've talked about all these prior events on the Reykjanes. We've had however many eruptions, like 8 or 9 eruptions, and 2 intrusions, right? We had the November 10th, 2023 intrusion. We also had another intrusion on March 2nd. And as I'm thinking about this, maybe what we have going on here today is an event that is, in terms of movement and energy, 80% intrusion, and it just happened to also produce a small eruption. Maybe, you know, 10-20% of the activity is what you're seeing at the surface. But truly, most of what we saw with the earthquake data today might just be, so it might ultimately be an intrusion with some small eruptive component. Again, we'll have to see. It's still early. This could all go many different ways from here forward. You know, that magma, you can see some of those gases coming out here. It just doesn't have enough oomph to push through these fissures, which are likely just below the surface, and pump that lava up to the surface where those gases are coming out. So it could be that a lot of the pressure was relieved from this pressurized magma system as it intruded into the area. Here's Johan.
Sometimes good, depending on where you are. So I'm going to declare this a minor eruption, and I say open Grindavik and especially Papa's restaurant as soon as possible.
There you go.
Helicopter coming, so I'm going to move out of the way.
Johan has declared this a minor eruption.
Stay low.
So it looks like he might need to start taking the drone back. We had a nice little view there on the second run, and he'll give us some nice views as we head back. Appreciate Nature Eye and Johan for doing this, taking time to spend with us. And he may have room in his schedule for more flights. So if you want to try to catch this on your own, you can go to natureye.com, set up your own flight with Johan. Maybe
We got
today. I
our
don't know. Maybe
RC signal
okay.
back.
Of our prior cones, just a real good looking cone with lots of oxidation, the red there. But yeah,
Helicopters out of the way.
they have reasonable prices for these flights. It's a really cool experience and a great gift, something different to give someone instead of, you know, gift cards, clothes, things that we all probably have in abundance and don't really need any more of. So
Try to get a little better focus. It's gonna mute again.
okay, so he's muted again. It's kind of windy a little bit where he was, it sounded like too with the microphone. But another view there with the fissure, the berm. You know, these fountains are maybe up to maybe 20, 30 meters. I don't know. I'm just guessing here, but fairly modest compared to what we've seen from these other fissure vents, these eruptions. But yeah, I'm interested to see if that idea kind of holds any sway with this being mainly an intrusive event of the magma moving through the subsurface, occupying this zone, but that intrusion also was accompanied by a small amount of that magma making its way to the surface and this eruption that we're seeing here. Because there's a chance this is it. There's a chance this peters out over the course of the day, and that would be it for this, excuse me, for this episode of this eruption. But there's also possibility that this goes on and maybe we get it's erupting somewhere else. It'll be interesting again to see what the deflation signal is at the GPS stations, if there is much of a deflation signal from erupting this minor amount of magma up to the surface. View there to the east, Fagradalsfjall. Swing around to the northeast along the crater row. It would be kind of weird if, you know, we had this an eruption at the south end, if something did happen at the northeast end, but nothing in the middle. That'd be kind of a different pattern than what we've seen in the past. So we'll let Johan bring us in here if you're still with us. And then we'll switch over to some of the stuff Amanda Jo sent me, see if we can get updated on some of the latest data and news coming out. And I'll be able to stay with you maybe another 45 minutes or so, and then I have to get off to my 101 class, and then I have my 102 class right after that. And I think I have a department meeting and a doctor's appointment. So I don't know. I'll try to get back on later today if I can. We'll have to also see where this goes. If there's things going on, I will make every effort to continue to provide some analysis and perspective on things. And I'm as invested in this as you are, and I like to learn and see what's happening, and I find it fascinating. And I love our little community of learners and folks who just enjoy learning about Earth's processes, and it's just a fun way to experience this. And I can't think of any other place on the planet where we have this sort of access with webcams. Here we are watching the drone fly over this recent flow field. It's pretty sweet in Iceland. We've got really great access, and hopefully we never take that for granted. The the views, the access to both the data and the eruption sites themselves, I don't think I've ever seen anything that tops this. Pretty incredible. Yeah, someone says GPS shows no subsidence. It might be too early in the runs there, because they have every 4 hours or 8 hours they add a dot to the graph. Excuse me. And so it might be a little bit early. We'll have to wait till a little bit later today to see if that deflation signal even shows up. Even if it flatlined a little bit, instead of the slow inflation that we've been seeing, that would be somewhat, I think, demonstrative things going on. Yeah, and someone says this might not be the main event. It's true. This could be just a little. We've effectively today, what we've seen basically is magma move from the shallow storage system to the east into a northeast southwest trending dike, an intrusive event that looks like it was accompanied with a little bit of that spilling out. There was some fractures. Those larger fractures around Hagafeld, those are just what we see at the surface. Who knows what's in the subsurface? But those very well could be easy pathways when the system's at capacity for the magma to make its way to the surface. And we're just seeing a little bit of that coming out. Some outgassing, some gases accompanied with that lava extrusion. But still, the vast majority of that magma is still in the subsurface, in storage. Some of it's pushing its way to the northeast and southwest, even as we speak, breaking rock, creating earthquakes, opening up fractures, and all of those things lead to enhancing and creating larger magma storage. And so that, as the magma is able to move in the subsurface into more areas, that should effectively reduce the pressure to some degree. Now, is it reducing it enough that it's going to keep it from erupting today? Maybe, but at some point, if you continue to bring more magma from the deeper storage zone up, then eventually you reach a point where the magma either needs to break more rock in the subsurface and there's another intrusion, or there's an eruption at the surface. So we'll have to see how things look moving. So we'll let Johan bring this in for landing. I'm assuming this is our last flight with him. Usually we try to do 2 when we can. So again, thanks to Johan and NatureEye for doing this. I'll make sure since I can't talk to him, he can't hear me, I'll reach out and send him a message that says thank you. I think we're done here. I want to just get confirmation with him, and then we'll move on to check out the rest of the eruption. Okay. I just now seeing my message, so. Okay, so we can probably switch over now back to where we were. And let's see, what do we got going on here? So here, this was the helicopter overflight. So let me go back to showing you this. A little shaky, but there was the greenhouse. There's the berm right there. You can see these offset fissure systems. This was obviously several hours ago when things were a little bit more vigorous in terms of eruptive activity. So most of the fissure, again, is north of the berm. Several disconnected sections here. There's the one that was burning through the defensive wall or the berm. And then the 2 just on the inside, just beyond it to the right. Looking down at the lava flow field there. This is looking from south to north. Hey, your head's in the way. There you go. There's the greenhouse down here. So you can see it, it's not particularly long compared to what we've seen in the past. Fairly moderate to maybe even small in size compared to some of the other eruptions in Iceland. But again, things are still early. There's the January 14th flow field, Grindavik. And then here's this newer section of lava, this more silvery iridescent. That's the fresh lava there. This other black stuff's the older lava. So you can see that lava from the fissure kind of oozing out along the berm and then flowing further to the south. Okay, great. So thanks for sending that, Amanda Joe. Let's check our webcams and see what's going on here. So we've got the greenhouse. Things still there's still lava coming out, but things look pretty slow here at the south end. State view there. Things have definitely slowed down compared to what we saw earlier. So it'll be interesting to see, is this it? Is this the exit maneuver for this event? Let's check out the earthquakes again. So there's 3 hours. Let's switch over to just the last maybe minutes or so. Yeah, so still getting seismic activity at that northeast end, and then some larger magnitude quakes just to the west of Grindavik, sort of at the southwest end of that fissure system. That's the areas to kind of keep an eye on. How long will that seismic activity persist in those areas? So there's the last 10-15 minutes. And then let me switch over to, because I know she sent me all sorts of stuff, so let me switch over to stuff from Amanda Joe. Okay. Oh boy. Might have a new oh, this should be my let's update the Met Office update and see what we have here. It's the same one. A couple other links she just sent me. So this one has Kristin Jonsdottir, who's Met Office head, I believe. Lava flow is slowed down. Lava flows from the fissure north of Grindavik have slowed somewhat. They continue to flow from the fissure both inside and outside the lava berm. Craters have begun to form on the fissure, obscuring the flow and making it more difficult to assess its extent. Looks like Isak had his drone up as well. He always does a great job. Talked about the hot water pipe as well. This link here. So it looks like it's a lot of the similar that there's all the earthquakes coming in. So if you want to see exactly when did the magma really start moving, when did that reach a tipping point? I mean, there's your cluster of earthquakes there, right around just before 7 a.m. local time. Those earthquakes coming in, with several above magnitude 3. Let's see. Slipstreaming asked, do you recall the amount of time that passed after the eruption when you had the drone over the fissure that erupted near the edge of Grindavik? That was in January 14th. I don't remember. That was a short-lived eruption, if that's what you're asking. I think it only lasted a day. We obviously watched it taking place in real time, had no idea how long things were going to play out, but it turned out to be a fairly short-lived event. I think it was about a day or so. We'd have to look that up. Let's see, here's another video she sent me. I'm just seeing if this this looks a little different. So this is Arthur Krislifson. Does great work with the drone as well. That's nice and crisp. There's the berm, the greenhouse, the vents to the south, right through the berm there. These offset segments going up towards Hagafelt. And they almost look like, in that one view, it did look like almost like a continuation of the crack from Hagafelt, that big crack at its south end. I wonder if these are opening up along that same trend. He's got some nice drone footage here. But not like a through-going fissure, right? These are like sort of individual vents that are mostly along a linear this shows you that it doesn't really have a lot of power. If this was a more powerful, vigorous system, you'd have a clean crack connecting all these individual vents together. They could still be offset. That's not a big deal. That's just more the structures involved, instead of these sort of single point vents lined up together, sort of connect the dots style. So I think that just speaks to you know, this thing just lacking some of that punch that we've seen some of the past events. There's the January 14th lava field, and then here's this one today. But great video footage there from Horður Krislifson. There's some of those places I saw, the cracks where there's just that magma's, you know, in that crack, but it's just not coming out to the surface. He always does great work. Great videography there. So thanks for sending that one, Amanda Joe. Let's see what else you sent me. Yeah, I think someone asked about the large quakes far away from the eruption. I think that's what I talked about. Are you talking about like further, like away from Iceland? Like, way far away? Oh, like these ones further out the ocean. These ones are kind of odd, these two here, because they're not really along the main plate boundary trend, as are these here. And these are all within the last 30 minutes, so those are kind of interesting. Yeah, I'd have to try and think about those a little bit more. Really, I mean, the whole region is just pretty crazy, right? And I mean, the way that the site is set up, the circles and the bright colors are a little bit overwhelming. I can't say for sure that all of these quakes over the whole region are triggered by this event, but they possibly could be. You've got such great stress conditions going on here that it's possible that regionally those stress conditions are triggering these smaller quakes in the area, even over here in Krishuvik. I do not believe that means the magma is everywhere you see the earthquakes. That is for sure not the case. Let's see, what else do we have here? From Ator, could you please explain the large earthquake stretching very far? Yeah, okay, I live in the capital and Philly. Yeah, so if you're in Iceland right now and in the capital area or anywhere on the Reykjanes Peninsula, this is probably a little unsettling because you're likely feeling some of these quakes. You know the volcano is erupting. You know, it's hard to analyze some of these things in real time and in the moment. I think this signal is pretty clear that you've got the intrusion continuing to push to the southwest and to the northeast, breaking rock and lengthening this magmatic intrusion. and that's reflective in this earthquake data over the last 2 hours. But these more farther field quakes, notice though they're just one-offs, right? I mean, there's like one here, but it's not a cluster, and there's one down here, but it's not a cluster. So not being a seismologist, my hunch would be that those are just stress-induced quakes from this very strong event that's going on the Reykjanes Peninsula. And notice they're coinciding in time and somewhat in space with this event, right? Like we've never seen a pattern like this. I've never seen a pattern like this looking at the Reykjanes Peninsula over the past couple of years, where it's distributed, 2s and 3s just kind of spread out like that. So it has to be somewhat related to this event because it's all taking place within that time frame. Could it be that this was only stress release from those bigger ones that were there in the morning, then that it wasn't fully ready yet, and that's why it doesn't have the full power? Yeah, I'm not sure I totally follow the question. Apologize for that. So thanks for sending me those questions, Amanda Joe. Yeah, so I think that with the eruption apparently winding down, although again, it's still quite early, at least at this south end, it looks like it's trending that way. I think the next thing to watch will be the earthquakes, and they're still happening even as we speak. I would still keep an eye on the Met Office updates. I'm sure we'll continue to send ones out as things change. Interesting to see if we crazy. So yeah, I mean, look at the whole area. The Reykjanes, like basically no earthquakes until you get to 6:45 or whatever local time, and then all of these quakes. But some of these, yes, most of these are right here near the eruption site, but some of these are actually these green stars that are further away. But I think it's a regional stress thing. It's a bit of earthquake triggering mechanism. That would be my hunch. But it'd be interesting to see how deep these quakes are too, and do a bit of a deep dive on that. Okay, let's see, questions coming in. Here we go. And this could end soon and start again later with full power without outside triggering. Sorry, my English is not good. Yeah, sorry, I think I don't fully understand your question, so I'm trying to figure it out. I think I think we have two different things going on, but also two things that are related. We have the earthquake swarms, which are concentrated around this magma body from Grindavik up here to the northeast, and that is a result of magma intrusion. But because we have that magma intrusion and we have this overly inflated magma storage zone, and we're seeing big earthquakes, not big, but moderate-sized earthquakes at both the northeast and southwest ends, that may also be triggering some of these quakes just in the area. If you have these fault systems and fractures that are under stress but not ready to produce an earthquake, and now you change the stress conditions throughout the region because of this magma intrusion, that can put some of those areas to the tipping point where they have an earthquake sooner than they might otherwise. And that might be why we're seeing so much seismicity, not just in the main area where the magma is located, but over here, Blvd system, and all throughout the Reykjanes. That would be my just sort of guess right now. Yeah, I think, Liam, that's the idea, the eruption energy, or what I would call the energy in the magma system forcing its way and lengthening and extending those fractures northeast southwest. That's the idea. I think that's the way I'm kind of reading this right now, but this is all just armchair quarterbacking the whole thing. let's see, the Swedish beard, since RUV pretty much confirmed magma movement in a newly formed magma corridor, could we be in for a new eruption in the coming months more to the north in or around Keilir? Yeah, where does Keilir fit into the whole thing? So Keilir is this kind of cone-shaped mountain. Find it. Might be hard to find with all these quakes, so let's take. Yeah, it's over here. So we look at the location of the quakes. It's still a few kilometers away, and so Keilir is a high point, and it's an older volcano, but it's just an older volcano, just like Hagafelt is an older volcano, and Silingerfelt, and all these hills, essentially, most of them are older subglacial volcanoes. I don't think there's anything special about Keilir. It's in the ballpark, it's in the area, but I don't think right now we are not seeing magma movement towards that area. And I think we're more likely to see, if anything, I would expect this trend to go further to the northeast. Now, what's alarming here and what's concerning, if Grindavik is dodging a bullet right now because that lava is just not going to make it into town this time, what we have to think about now is that this magma intrusion has extended itself today further to the northeast than it was previously. And further to the northeast means that we have the possibility of it impacting the main highway between the capital and the airport at Keflavik. And here's the town of Vogar right here. And these are very close to and just a few kilometers away from where all this activity is, which is concerning. I'll actually be in Iceland in about 2 months at the end of May with a group of folks on a field trip, and we are staying, we have a rental house in Vogar. So that's, you know, this is an area of concern right now. Right now it's just earthquakes. It's not magma at the surface. It's not an eruption. But what this means is that this magma body has lengthened itself further to the northeast. And if it's lengthened itself in the subsurface in that direction, then it A, could lengthen itself further to the northeast, or B, also at some point create a conduit up to the surface from where all these earthquakes are. So having a vent open up in this area would be very bad news, because in all likelihood, if we have enough lava erupt this far northeast on the fissure system, then the lava could quite quickly and easily get to the roadway, possibly the coast, and possibly a little town of Vogar here. So those are some of the things I'm thinking about right now, and some of the I have. Let's see. Jerry, can John explain why at the beginning of the dike intrusion so much over 3 strong earthquake miles around, especially? Yeah. I've tried to give my best explanation. Do I 100% know for sure? Nope. Just lending my, you know, but the correlation is interesting, right? So it's one of those classic correlation causation games. We don't see earthquakes like this. I mean, there's even some way up here on the Snæfellsnes Peninsula. And this is just the last 2 hours. So unless there's some crazy glitch in the data that's just creating random artificial earthquakes, which I don't think is the case, because people have reported, you know, feeling them around Reykjavik. Here's a 3.1 here. That's pretty close. My best interpretation is it's just the intrusion of magma, which is, I think this is pretty considerable. This is possibly only second to the November 10th event, which was when the magma initially went into this zone, and we had larger quakes, magnitude 4s and maybe even 5s, which had a lot more seismic energy, but that was the first push of magma into the system. Since that time, we've just seen those same conduits used to generate all the eruptions that have taken place since then. And now today we're seeing a large volume of magma, who knows how much, move into this zone, lengthen, and possibly create regional stresses that are triggering some of these smaller quakes in the area. Now, most of these aren't going to be felt, right? 2.2, 1.5, 1.8, those aren't going to be felt, but certainly you get things closer to 3 that are closer to towns and such, and those maybe could be felt. Scared to pull in all the data. Yeah, kind of crazy. It's a lot of earthquake activity. Anyway, and yeah, just this part of Iceland, right? Just this western area around Reykjanes Peninsula. So the thing to look for moving forward, I think, is just to keep watching the kind of short-term data, hour by hour, every 30-minute runs, something like that, to see how these change over time. I'm not as concerned right now with this zone of quakes to the west of Grindavik, although I'm not ignoring them either. I think this swarm, if there is going to be another episode, chapter in what happened and began today, it might be in this zone. And then, of course, there's a high chance that just it all kind of like stops, right? The magma moves into these new zones. We break the rock. We generate the earthquakes. But the magma makes more space for itself, that it reduces the pressure, and things subside a little bit. But given the very small amount of lava that erupted today, and I'm sure we'll get estimates from the Met Office or others at some point, there's still a tremendous amount in the subsurface. And so how much was actually drained, and are we just basically, is this sort of the precursor to the bigger event? Today's bigger event was mainly magma in the subsurface. Will the next bigger event be magma at the surface in some sort of eruption? And will it be, what if it erupts with much more vigor in the same place as it did today? That's not good for Grindavik. What if it erupts with much more vigor in this new area where rock's being broken to the northeast? That's a possibility, and that's not good because we have infrastructure there. We'd really like to see it just return to this middle area, which has its own hazards, right? We have the Blue Lagoon and the power plant nearby, so it's going to be tricky. Now we have a longer magmatic dike than we had previously. Potentially extends further. We know there's large cracks under Grindavik anyway, so that's not good news. We've got this central section, which for the most part can handle these larger eruptions, except for when it threatens the power plant and the Blue Lagoon. And now we've got this zone to the northeast, which could put areas like Vogar and the highway into some sort of peril as well. Crazy times. An interesting situation nonetheless. Okay. Well, feels like maybe we're kind of winding down. We got to have our good little live stream there with Nature Eye and Johan. We kind of circle back and see if Mandy's got anything else for me here. Otherwise, I'll need to sign off soon. Get ready for classes. Stuff. Let's see. Answer this. Check this hour that was updated. Okay, so we have some new friend Erland. Does the GPS data. Let's look at the What does the GPS trend show? Okay, so here is our first data point. Can you guys see that, or is my big face in the way? So here's our Svartsengi station, the uplift. This is the up-down axis. And there's a data point down here. So we have dropped, let's see, 60, about 120 millimeters, 12 centimeters. So basically we brought just the eruption today, and not so much the eruption too. Remember that this is not just the eruption. This is magma moving away from the power plant area, which is where the storage zone is, and moving off to the east. And yes, some of it erupted, but a lot of it just moved. But nonetheless, the GPS measurement here looks like about 12 centimeters of deflation here, which sort of takes it back to like early February levels. So basically that same elevation there. So thanks for sending that. That's interesting. But I don't think, I doubt that that's all a result of the amount of lava at the surface today. I think this is again just my assumption here. I think that's partly moving the magma from the storage area underneath the power plant, moving it into the dike to the east. And then, yeah, some of it did erupt. So we'll have to look at all the GPS data and see what it just sort of looks like cumulatively. Very interesting, though, either way. Could the central eruptive zone be plugged by the larger volume of cooled lava from previous eruptions? I mean, if you're talking about the lava sitting on top of it, all those stacked lava flows, I mean, that does introduce some compressive stress above it, and maybe that inhibits it some small percentage, but I don't think it has a huge effect on things in the grand scheme of things. I think if we have fractures there, we know we have conduits there, and so I don't think it's as big a player as maybe it seems, but it probably has some small factor as well. Let's see. Let's look at. I wonder if we can look at the other stations. Let's go to. So, yeah, the 8-hour runs aren't showing it yet. 4-hour runs are, so here's Eldvarp. See the same movement there, downward. Same drop. So things moving to the north and to the west. At least this station moved northwest and down. So that Eldvarp station moved northwest and down. That last drop. See it here? A little movement to the west. No vertical movement. The Svartsengi one. Yeah, some of the other sites are showing that as well. Ostraveger. Downward. Westward. Upward. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to just see how those kind of play out moving. Well, where are we at with this whole thing? Interesting. Not like the eruptions we've seen in the past. I think today has definitely given us something new. I think so far, if this just kind of keeps going the way it's gone thus far, Grindavik dodged yet another bullet. Literally. They had an eruption. Well, they're having an eruption right now. I mean, there's still a little bit going on, but south of the berm, but no infrastructure was impacted. We didn't have anything that impacted any part of town. No homes were destroyed, so great news there. Power plant in Blue Lagoon looking good. So on the surface, things look pretty positive, but the big concern, of course, is everything's changed now. The whole dynamics in the subsurface has changed markedly with the earthquake activity and this intrusion, and this will be the thing to watch over the next few hours, maybe days, and maybe even longer. It's what do we see with the earthquake trends and the GPS trends, all the data really, but this is the one I'm really most interested in right now, is seeing what happens with this. Does this trend continue? Because if it continues and we see evidence for magma influx, there's still magma moving into the storage zone, then that could, at some point mean that we've got another event, rather an intrusion or an eruption, happening sometime soon. So, interesting stuff. Always interesting in Iceland. Anything else from either the live chat or Amanda Joe? Anything else that I can assist with here? The sun's starting to come up, so I need to close my blinds. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be, I'll probably do another update. If not today, then maybe tomorrow. And Amanda Jo will keep me updated as she always does. And thanks to her. Thanks also to Lisa, who's been helping out moderate the chat as well. But I'll get some more information from Amanda Jo as well as anyone else who's in Iceland, or anyone really who is able to send me information. Let me check one or two other things here before we kind of wind this down. Sites. Make sure I don't have anything else standing. But at least I'm glad this happened. Well, for me personally, it was nice that it happened now versus when I was gone last week on vacation. Okay, I think there's anything there. Typing this site real quick. But thanks for everyone for jumping on today and being part of our live stream. Go on the bottom left, you can scroll down and choose Fartsing and see only quakes in that area. Oh. Yeah, they've changed this menu, I think, from what it was previously. So she's saying you can go in here and select an area. You can just pick earthquakes in that kind of region. I don't know how it defines the region per se, like what boundaries or parameters it gives. That's kind of slick. Oh, you can select that and then other ones as well. Oh, there's saying you right. Yeah, that's kind of nice. So then that kind of takes out. Yeah, I got it. Thanks though. That takes out some of those regional ones and lets you kind of focus just on this area. That's cool. I didn't know that maybe they had that all along and I was unaware, or maybe that was added. Either way, that's a nice addition. So you can pick all of Iceland and get all the earthquakes, or you can kind of pick specific regions. So that'll be a nice, and it's divided up, let's see, by areas, and then these are volcanic and plate systems, glacial and volcanic areas, which is the big list here. Very cool. Yeah. Blvd, yeah, so you just get those. Yeah, so they've just arbitrarily created boundaries around each of these kind of systems or zones, and then they let you kind of pick those. Cool feature. Thanks for letting me know. Appreciate it. So there's all the quakes. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it looks like the eruption is darn close. It's not done, but it's approaching, right? It's in its waning stages, I would say, at this point. But it was nice we were able to see some of the footage with the drone. It was good to be able to see what we were able to see today together and collectively. Yeah, good stuff. So I think that'll kind of do for now, friends. Hopefully, yeah, an interesting event nonetheless, something to think about. I'm super interested in hearing what other experts have to say, and see if that jives with my interpretation, or if there's other data to look at. That's the best part about science, is being open to new data, new perspectives, not coming to hard, fast conclusions and running off into the sunset. So I'm interested to see what others think as well moving forward. But it was an interesting morning here sharing this with you. Hope you're all well. We'll do either, I don't know if the next update will be a live stream or a video update. It kind of just depends. Obviously, when the eruption's taking place in real time, it makes sense to do a live stream, because I don't have anything prepared, and it's kind of all on the fly. Thanks for being patient with me today. And with Nature Eye, we had not the best communication, but we're able to get the visuals up, which is important. Thanks as always to Amanda Jo, and Susan's on now, and Lisa as well for moderating the live chat. Appreciate all the viewers here, all of you for jumping on and being part of this. We've built an amazing, positive learning community, and it's amazing. It's awesome. It keeps me going all the time. So we'll go ahead and sign off. Thanks for all of you for jumping on, and we will see you next time. Have a great day. Continue to watch the events here in Iceland. I will, of course, circle back and check all the webcams and the data here once I get out of my block of classes here. And I will be with you as soon as I see anything interesting, or if I can provide any perspective or analysis. But hopefully our time together here was well spent, and we'll see you next time. Take care, friends, and